Is Russia using the last of its combat power in this offensive to take the prizes of Bakhmut and Avdiivka? But how close are they? And how long can they keep this up? I'm Paul, U.S. Army combat veteran. It's March 27th, 2023. This is your daily Ukraine update. Let's get into it. Okay, the biggest news, again, you have another day where there's not really any changes in control. You can see here a very, very comically minor mapping update depicting Russian forces, again, advancing to this roadway all the way in the southeastern part of Bakhmut. But the more important thing, or no, excuse me, I have it backwards. It's just a small that the Russians don't actually control this small portion of the city. But you can see, again, Ukrainian forces holding off Russians. There's even been some open source social media that indicates that Ukrainian forces are still able to use both of these roadways despite being fairly close to Russian artillery fire. Primarily, they speculate due to the fact that Russian artillery fire is just not that accurate. But it's an indicator that perhaps Ukraine believes Russia won't actually be able to take Bakhmut despite throwing a large portion of their combat power into it. The other objective of theirs is Avdiivka. And as you guys can see here, again, just mapping Russian forces away from these reservoirs, these lakes here. And it's a tall order. They're not really in downtown Avdiivka. Even when we look over at War Mapper, who, interestingly enough, is starting to cover the Avdiivka efforts. This reports, of course, that Ukrainians have successfully counterattacked and retaken trenches outside of the city previously taken by Russian forces. So probably a reference you can see here, as well as, let's see if we can find it here, in the south of the city. So probably around this area. Oh, here we go. Here it is. Right here in the south. There's this blue arrow. Just a small, again, retaking some defensive positions. But the level of threat to Avdiivka, fairly low. But reflective of the fact that Russian forces are really, I think, want to at least be able to tout these two cities as the major victories in their big offensive. But you can see they're launching only 60 attacks in the last 24 hours, really probably one of the lowest of total volume of attacks that we've seen in this conflict. And it's not totally clear from reporting that this reflects that each attack is punching harder. I think this seems to be the same general volume and mix of attacks. But as you can see, Bakhmut itself, not really seeing that. Instead, you're seeing efforts to complete this encirclement, punching near H32, trying to push this northern prong out, as well as within Avdiivka. You can see here, again, not much work inside the city cauldron itself, but more trying to expand these two prongs and complete the pincer, cutting off the withdrawal efforts, which is not an ineffective strategy. But it's hard when you see that Russia just isn't applying the same pressure to the front lines. It's not clear that they're able to, not with their current defense industrial base. And that's been one of the controversies in this conflict so far is Russia's defense industrial base, their ability to manufacture or obtain gear that their soldiers need to fight. And without it ramping up, they're going to have a hard time sustaining these sort of offensive efforts. So they're going to have to take a longer pause in their offensives until they can bring more tanks, more weapons, more artillery to the battlefield. And that's going to take some time. And hopefully, as we've been saying for literally weeks, Ukraine needs to exploit that. They need to take advantage of the fact that Russian forces are running themselves out, but they can't fight on Russian timelines. They have to fight on their own. And I want to also just talk, as always, briefly about combatvetnews.com. As you guys know, it's the site with that I had to launch when I got the boot off of Patreon. But as you guys can see, it's got, there we go. As you guys can see, it has all of my YouTube videos automatically on there. It also has a members only area where I'm not only uploading all my old Patreon archives, but dropping videos on the regular. I'm trying to do almost several times a week to sort of build up a catalog of exclusive content. These are GoPro footage, drone footage, the stuff that YouTube and Patreon just won't let me show you, but give us real insights into the fighting. We've got, for example, this mountain warfare up near Avdiivka. These are Ukrainian soldiers who are dug in on a mountaintop, engaging Russian forces from across the river. As well as, of course, failed and successful trench clearing attempts. So again, if you want to support the channel, it's the way to do it. And we are hopefully working on getting PayPal enabled. So that should be coming up soon, as well as getting the shout out to all our lieutenant and colonel tier patrons. We're going to get that together for you so you guys can get your shout out at the end of every video. But for now, I appreciate you. Thank you so much. I'll see you in the next one.